So in the tropical storm of the UK, we've had some more polls. A big poll dump came out on Thursday. I do preface by talking about the rain because if you can hear it in the background, I do apologise, but I can't control the weather. So we had all of these polls. Look how many polls we got to go over. This is brilliant news. And we can go through each of these. So there's no state ones on this second page. So we can go right on back to the first page and we can look at, so we had national polls yesterday, CBS and NBC, they had Harris up by 5 or 4, which would say she'd win the election. They had Virginia poll. This was a very interesting one from a university, which obviously universities tend to be left-leaning. Harris only up by 2 in Virginia. Who was the one that was keeping Virginia in the lean category? That would be me, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. And then we have, as things stand, obviously, we're still a month and a half away from the election, so, you know, things can change. National multi-candidate. What I find really interesting about this is they have Chase Oliver at 2%. That is, that's very interesting. Chase Oliver didn't even have the endorsement of his own party, and the majority of people didn't even vote for him in the first round of the Libertarian Party, whatever they had. I think they do their system very strange with the convention and things like that. Maybe we could look into that another time. But anyway, let's get right into the polls. So we can go to our map and we can fill in absolutely all of the states that are not going to be changing at all. And that's all of these states. We have Alaska under 10, Florida under 10, and Texas under 10. We have all of these states above 10. I'm keeping Iowa in safe. Maybe you could, okay, you say it's lean, it doesn't really matter, it's not going to flip. Ones like Colorado, maybe New Mexico slightly under 10, Hawaii safe, California, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota under 10, Illinois. Nebraska's second district is also under 10. Virginia, I'm keeping it in the lean. I'm going to stick with it. Even when it looks like it's not going to be there, I'm going to stick with it because I trust the process in Virginia. And then we have Maine. We have the other district in Maine. We have New York. And we have our 7 swing states remaining. Okay, let's get right into the polls. So we have The Hill / Emerson. Emerson, one of the... you would say one of the best pollsters. They weren't perfect last time, which you're never going to be, but in terms of there were quite a few pollsters who did better than them in terms of how close they were to predicting it correct. But they're a very reputable pollster, and they had Trump up by 1 in this Arizona poll. Now, I would probably have said that Trump was up by about 3 at this point, maybe 2. But that's still a win for Republicans. That's still a win for Donald Trump. So that's a good result there. But that's one that you'd hope you'd get anyway. You'd be alarmed if Harris was leading that poll. Nevada, even though it's one poll, Nevada's a tie. Nevada we don't really need to talk about too much because it's only very specific ways that Nevada can decide the election, and I really don't think it's going to happen that way. Wisconsin is Trump up by 1. Trump leading a Wisconsin poll. Oh my goodness, that's quite the earthquake. Because as we established in the last few videos, last election cycle and 2016, Trump was predicted 6 to 7 points lower than what he actually got. And so if he's leading the poll in Wisconsin, that means one of two things. Either they've sorted out their polling methods and now it's actually accurate, or Trump's going to wipe Wisconsin, which I think it's kind of somewhere in between. I think Trump is probably leading by about 2 points, maybe 3 points in Wisconsin. I think you're not going to see a 6 to 7 point wrong margin. But, and even Marist has Harris only at 1. And that's a left-leaning pollster, and they have Harris only up by 1. So, really, it looks like Trump's in a very good position in Wisconsin now. Crazy how times change. It looked like that was... Or even Polymarket had that even as recently as last video. They had Wisconsin as Harris's most likely state. Anyway, we go to Pennsylvania. Washington Post has it even, which seems like every Pennsylvania pollster has it even. But Emerson gave us a result, and that's what we want. Marist has it even, which probably means Trump's up in their poll. But The Hill and Emerson have Trump up by 1. Again, in Pennsylvania, they have Trump up by 1 in 3 different swing states now. Now, Trump is at 259, so his path to victory would be either North Carolina, or Georgia, or Michigan, and Nevada, again, doesn't open up any new paths. Harris's route would have to be Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, and then Nevada doesn't matter. So now we go to... We don't have... Do we have North Carolina? We do. Okay. So we have this New York Times Siena poll, which is one of the more left-leaning pollsters than most, and they have Harris by 4. I mean, you look at the other polls from fairly reputable pollsters, and it just makes New York Times look very silly. Franklin and Marshall, they have Harris by 3. I don't really know too much about them, to be honest. Michigan, okay, Michigan has Harris up by 2, and Marist has Harris up by 5. Again, there was the endorsement. So, Democrat, and again, this is from someone who has no... I want to preface this, because obviously we got a lot of new people watching these videos. I'm British. I have no horse in the race. I don't really care who wins. Objectively, I see Harris as a very bad candidate, and if she wins, I'll be shell-shocked. But the Democrats got the endorsement of Dick Cheney, right? Who has and Liz, who have no real... They don't really matter. But you look at, there was a mayor in the only Muslim majority city in America. This matters. This is big, because Dick Cheney, this is a guy who's just a guy. But then you look at this mayor in a swing state with a demographic that could swing the state either way. That's 40,000 votes that could go either way. And we saw that Trump was up in the polling among Muslim voters. He was first. Harris was third, behind Jill Stein. Harris is doing very bad among these Muslim voters in Michigan, which people thought she was doing very well in. And it's really closing Michigan up. And look, she's still ahead. I think we did have a poll that had Trump up in Michigan. I don't think that is the case right now. I think it's a lot closer than people think. But I think 2 points is probably about accurate. I think a lot of people think it's around 3 to 4 points right now. I think it's probably 2 is accurate. Maybe 1.9 if I was going to make a prediction now on a specific number. But nevertheless, Harris is up. You go to Georgia, Trump's up by 3. That just proves Harris is struggling to get these black voters to either turn out in these polls or turn out full stop. You have this TIPP poll, which has it even. You have North Carolina. So this is the really interesting one. Harris is up in Emerson in North Carolina. This is the state that we've been to, and you know what? There have been people. I saw someone in the comments of a few videos ago that said North Carolina will go blue. Maybe they were right. I really did not foresee this, and somehow North Carolina is probably not the safest Trump state anymore. You'd probably say Arizona's the safest. By these polls, Georgia's the safest, but I really don't think that's the case. I just think maybe the black vote is getting underestimated in these polls. But anyway, we do have a couple more polls actually. But Carolina Journal has Trump up by 1. So North Carolina probably is... If we go through each state, Nevada's a complete toss-up, but it doesn't really matter. Arizona is... I'd probably say 2 or 3 points, maybe 2.8 points to Trump at the moment. This is just my sort of estimate, but I think it's quite an educated guess. Wisconsin is... if I was going to make a prediction now, I'd probably say Trump's up by 2, and I know a lot of people are not going to like the fact that I'm saying Trump's up at all and saying by 2, but I think if a poll this isn't Morning Consult that has Trump up, or a reputable, or Rasmussen rather, that has Trump up, which is a right-leaning pollster. This is just a completely objective pollster that has Trump leading a state that they predict him, the pollsters predict him way off in every time. So I'd probably say Wisconsin is in Trump's category, and of course it's one poll, and I always say, well, you can't read too much into one poll, but this is a very, like I say, reputable pollster. So I think we can read a little bit more into it. And the other polls have Harris up by 2, up by 1. She's not exactly running away with Wisconsin. Anyway, Michigan. If I was going to make a prediction now, like I said, probably 1.9%. Pennsylvania, because again, the Muslim vote, it is important, but it's a state of how many million people, and you're talking about 40,000 votes. So it will decide a really close election, but I don't think Michigan's quite there right now. Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania's been so close the whole time. I'd probably say it's like 0.6 to Trump at the moment, just because all the pollsters that actually give you a result and don't say even, Trump's leading. So apart from just complete outlier, terrible polls, and I'm not. That probably sounds like I'm just saying, well, if you're saying Republicans are up, then you're fine, but if you're saying Democrats are up, then you're just fake. But these pollsters, you look into them, they are often very wrong. Anyway, North Carolina, if you asked me the day before, I probably would have said, or the day before the polls came out, I probably would have said North Carolina was something like 3 points for Trump. I'd probably say he's up still right now, but you say Arizona's probably, 2.6. I'd probably say North Carolina's about 2.4 now, I guess. I think it is in the process of actually swinging blue, but maybe not so much as the polls are suggesting. I just can't buy into it yet. I'd need to see some more consistent polls in Harris's favour. Anyway, New York. This is a very interesting one from Siena as well. They have Harris only up by 13, and we saw after the debate between Biden and Trump, New York was running at the same as Texas in terms of the betting markets, which obviously you can't, again, read too much into. But New York is, it's moving. There's something going on there to watch out for. Probably not even next cycle. Probably 2030s. You'd be looking at New York maybe being in play. You got Maryland, which has predictably Harris just absolutely crushing Trump. California, again, California Harris. Of course, she's going to be leading by a big margin there. And we've got the Senate races, and that's all of those polls. So I think we had a couple more on Wednesday. Yeah, we had Georgia, which had, again, another +3 for Trump in Georgia. This Fabrizio poll that has Harris only up by 1. Quinnipiac has Harris only up by 1. That is a big one, because Quinnipiac is one of the most left-leaning pollsters. And then we have Michigan. Quinnipiac has it at 5. And Pennsylvania, and again, this is what I'm saying when I say Pennsylvania, reputable pollsters have it even or Trump up, and then ones like Quinnipiac, who are just so. I think Quinnipiac were actually the worst pollster last time, and they're saying Harris up by 5. I just don't see that happening. New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire has Trump down by 11 and Harris up by 11. That probably checks out. To be honest, I think New Hampshire is. We always put it slightly more in play than it actually is. It's one of the rare states that's actually the other way. Often Republicans get underestimated, or at least Donald Trump gets underestimated in polls pre-election, and then New Hampshire seems to operate in terms of, Romney in 2012. It was not as close as people thought. You look at Trump in 2016, it wasn't as close as people thought. You look at Trump against Biden in 2020, it was about 7 points. So I think it's and it keeps trending further and further away from Republicans. So you probably say, it may go over 10. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of neither here nor there, and it's 4 electoral votes. It's, again, Nevada's 6, and it's not changing anything. I mean, you combine the two, then that's 10. That can make a difference, but New Hampshire's not even in play, so it's not even worth talking about. Maybe Virginia could be a little bit more in play. We'll get to Virginia after, actually. We'll quickly go through these. Massachusetts has Harris up by 31, which, okay, that makes sense. Rhode has Harris up by 20, probably slightly less than you'd expect, but, it's still, again, who cares? Maine at large is only +9, so Maine was kind of, it wasn't in play in terms of a swing state, but after the Joe Biden debate, it was definitely being talked about as a potential state. I mean, at that point, you were saying, right, Republicans would start focusing on places like Michigan, Virginia, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Maine because they were so confident about winning the other states. And Harris comes in, you see this polling shift. There's been just a crazy 2 months of everything going on, basically, and it's been nearly 2 months to the day. But Maine seems to be under 10. Who's this from? Pan Atlantic. So yeah, makes sense. And they've actually done they've done districts as well. So Harris is up by 26 in the first district. Of course, obviously Democrats own or they do the gerrymandering over there, just like Republicans in Nebraska, to be fair. But so that's always going to be a big lead for Harris. And then you have Maine's second district, which has Trump up by 7. I have it under 5, but and I say again, don't read too much into one poll. But we're only ever going to get a poll a month out of these districts, so we kind of have to just take what's given to us. And I'd probably say now it's over 5. Maybe it's about 6, but again, I'm factoring in Trump often gets underestimated in general. You kind of have to take a sweeping guess of Maine's second district and other districts. So, and there was talk about Nebraska actually going to. So Maine's deadline's passed, but Nebraska could maybe have gone winner take all, which would have really. I think it opens up different paths for Trump, and so I think I'm just going to do some fiddling around here. So 282. So you're 12 points up. Maybe it doesn't. Or it was to do with. There's a path that has it at 270. Or, yeah, 270 to 268. And I'm trying to figure out which one it is. I can't put my finger on it right now. But, is it one of these? Is it? No, because there we go. Okay, so Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and then Trump would need North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona, and that's it. And then winner take all. So this in Nebraska would make it 269 to 269. Trump would win in the House. So, or win in the Senate. The procedure's strange, but anyway. But in this case, Nebraska's not. It's probably not going to change. Okay, we have this conversation every time. Really, is Nebraska's going to go winner take all? Maine's going to go winner take all? It never happens. So, 268 to 270 would be that path. But if you were to make it winner take all, that could actually open up a new path to victory. That's a big change. So these, Maine's second district and things like that, they do matter. These 1 points. We were just talking about New Hampshire, where it's only 4 electoral votes. In certain ways it can work, and we know elections never go exactly how we think they're going to go, so you've got to open up all the paths that you've got available. But look, this is the situation at the moment from the most recent polls, and Nevada's a complete toss-up because no one wants to put a prediction in there. Can we find a Nevada poll? Can we just get one in there? Also, we can talk about these. Missouri is +10 for Trump. That's a really unusual one, because that's from Emerson, so that's a good poll in theory. And maybe these states like Iowa, Missouri, in the central area, they're not as red as we maybe think. But yeah, Missouri's a really strange one. Indiana is +17. That's a big win. And can we get a Nevada poll? We do, from Trafalgar, and it has Harris up, so you know what, we can give it to California Harris. We can put it in there, 275 to 263. That is definitely not a normal number that I've been seeing. Yeah, really strange. It's Wisconsin in there that's really making things unusual. And you know what? Democrats have the right to say, well, we've been up in every Wisconsin poll. We deserve to keep ourselves in front there. And then you say they win North Carolina. You could say the same for Republicans in North Carolina, but let's just say you put yourself in a Democrat body. If you're already in one, then perfect. But you're saying that you're winning the election. If you're Trump and you're a Republican, you're probably saying that you're winning the election. So really, we're at the stage where both sides have a completely justifiable reason why they think they're leading. There was no justification for why you were going to win as a Democrat in July. Get to August, it was looking like Republicans were in trouble, although I was saying the whole time that it's just a shift and it will come back at some point, like a bias, and it will come back at some point, and it did. And now it's leveled out. So if we were to look at Polymarket right now, it probably goes way up in July for Republicans, way down, and levels out now. But we have 2 months or a month and a half, 40 something days until the election, and then we will find out our result. But this is my most recent update. Now, last thing, we've been getting a good amount of views on the channel recently, and I just want to ask you, if you are new, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be making more videos like this. You're going to have an objective viewpoint from a different channel, a different party. You're not going to get the opinion of people outside of the US much about US politics. So I'm here to give you that opinion from an objective viewpoint, someone who really doesn't care who wins. It doesn't really impact me. I mean, I have someone in mind who I'd prefer to win because it would benefit the UK. But either way, that doesn't really matter. The whole point is I'm going to give you an objective viewpoint in terms of the polling. I have no horse in the race, so feel free to subscribe and broaden your knowledge, expand your listening experience, and taking another viewpoint. Anyway, I appreciate you watching the video, but again, if you want my perspective on things, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, it pushes the video, share the videos, it would be great. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.